Good afternoon and welcome to episode 8 of Papa Tom's Take. If you had a chance to look at the teaser at the beginning of all these episodes, you'll see that I had several objectives, and one of my objectives was to share with you walks down memory lane. And I've already done that in episode, I think, 5, where I visited with some people that I worked with at California University of Pennsylvania. But this episode is one that I've been looking forward to for a long time because this reunites 4 counting me, of the principal. I was going to say victims, but we weren't victims. They were the victims of the Math Science Upward Bound program at Buffalo State College. Let me give you just a little bit of background of Math Science Upward Bound programs in general. They were part of the what's called the TRIO programs that were funded through the U.S. Department of Education. And in 1990, the TRIO programs were expanded, and one of the expansions was to add a math science component to this. And in general, TRIO programs were meant to help and work with students actually at all ages, because there's one that's actually a graduate program that were underrepresented from underrepresented populations and or within 150% of the poverty level. And also for first generation college bound was one of the criteria that could be used. So we were actually kind of on the ground floor since the program started in 1990. And I should have introduced my guest. I'm sorry. First on my screen is Michelle, and we'll get to her role in a few minutes. And then going clockwise, Russ was one of our instructors, and Bob was also one of our instructors. And together, the two of them were known as the Creek Guys. And of course, here in Ohio, that would be the Crick Guys, not the Creek Guys. But I'm going to turn to Michelle first to get a little background. Michelle, first of all, give us an idea of your role, and then give us a little history of the program at Buffalo State.
Well, that's a lot. My role when I first started, I don't know if you remember this, Tom, but you hired me to be a part-time secretary, 20 hours a week, and there was another part-time secretary, and we thought we could get it done. And I forget what happened, where you went, and just before the program started, Florida or somewhere, and it became a very full-time job. And I became a full-time assistant to you, and then that would have been summer of 92. First of the year, 92 was our first year. I believe you got the grant in 91 September, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then after that, I continued on until I became assistant to the program. And then when you went to be the graduate dean, I became the director at that time of the program.
So how long did the program run in total? Not necessarily just with my involvement.
16 years total. So we have 16 summers of students, about 800 students around about. Originally, we tried for 50, and then they wanted us to increase the number to 56.
Okay. And how did we go about well, first of all, our region was a huge region. It was the state of New York, it was the state of New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and Virgin Islands. So we had a huge and diverse region that we had to deal with. How did we go about doing that?
In the beginning, we weren't very good. We thought we would have more local. We were very effective with the islands in Puerto Rico. Word of mouth spread very quickly, as well as in New York City. We had quite a few over the years from like Syracuse and that sort of thing. But we had brochures. I would mail out stuff envelopes. Back in that day, you stuffed envelopes and brochures, and Russ took colorful pictures, and we just would get applications.
Yeah. Yeah. Just for everybody who might be watching, during my career, I probably had, and no offense, Creek guys, but I probably had 5 outstanding hires, and Michelle was clearly one of my outstanding hires. And it kind of sounds like me to go off to Florida right before the program begins and allow Michelle to take care of it. But she was always up for any challenge, and we'll get to some of the challenges in a few minutes. But part of the story I remember, Michelle, was that when I asked you to take the job, you consulted the department secretary, Jerry, as to whether that was a good idea or not. Is that true?
Yes, I thought you were I really didn't know you. I knew who you were. And I believe I told you that it was obvious that I was pregnant at the time. And you said, that's fine. And I said, well, I'm going to have a baby. And you said, well, bring the baby. And I said, well, I'm going to breastfeed. And you said, I won't watch. And every time I would bring her and breastfeed, we were new to each other, and you would go upstairs and go to the vending machine. You told me it made you gain weight. And
Yeah.
when I had my second daughter, I would just let you know I'm breastfeeding, and you'd stay on your side of the office and I'd stay on mine.
Yeah, I remember that very well. The first years of your 2 girls.
Yeah.
That was wonderful.
Yeah, they came
All right,
along right along.
Now we get to the Creek guys. Russ, my memory is we hired you first. Is that true?
Yes.
And
My,
and how did we find you?
I believe it was through the associate superintendent of Buffalo. I don't know if you knew him, but I was contacted and asked me if I'd be interested in a job at Buff State at teaching this math science upward bound program, and I decided I'll give it a try. And then I found out it was just me, you, and Pete and Michelle. Those were some long days when we started.
Yeah, that first summer was something. We planned almost 100% outdoor program. It was so exciting. We were going to have these kids outdoors all the time. And it was the rainiest summer
Yeah.
in the history of Western New York. And every day we would have to scramble. What are we going to do with these kids? What are we going to do with them? And I've told Michelle this several times, that if somebody told me right after the first year, I told her this, if somebody had told me that I had 6 weeks to live, I would say I want to run a math science upward bound program, because they were the longest 6 weeks.
Yeah, and you'd be happy when they were over.
Oh yeah. But the interesting thing is that even though I think all of us kind of felt, oh my God, what have we done? The kids loved it. And
Yeah.
and we got excellent feedback from them, and then I think word of mouth spread and made our recruiting easy, although our recruiting was never easy. But even that first summer that we bled almost, it was a success. So Bob, when did you come on?
So I was first. If you remember, you were on my committee for my master's program, and between you and Don Bird at Buff State, you guys had let me know about this program, and then I started as a counselor that first summer. I think it was that summer of '91 or '92, somewhere around there. It was. You guys had it 1 year, and then I jumped in that next year, and I lived in the dorms with the kids that first summer as a counselor.
I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that. I forgot that too.
And I think it was our first or second year married, and I'm like, hey, hon, I got this opportunity to go live in the dorms at Buff State for the summer. What do you think? And she's just like, are you serious? And but it turned out to be an amazing experience. And then the kids were like, hey, we go out to a creek. And I go, wait, you guys are going out to a creek? I'm like, let me come out with you a couple times. And I came out a couple times, and I think that's when Russ and I just hit it off, and the rest was history. And then just stayed on as the assistant creek guy.
So, do you have any idea who coined the phrase "the Creek Guys"?
That was got to be Russ. Like that, somebody, I don't know, somebody
I,
did.
I think it came like organically from the students.
Yes, it
They
did.
would, they would say the art lady, the math guy, the chemistry guy, you know, they would just say the subject like they never learned their names. And that was the guy.
Yeah. So, Russ, I think I remember this about you. What'd you say to? Well, first of all, you have to understand that particularly the students that we got from New York City, coming to Buffalo to them was just coming to the boondocks, just to the city of Buffalo, let alone off to a creek. You went. Remind me which creek you went to. I forgot.
18 Mile Creek when we started.
18 Mile Creek. And how many days a week were they in the creek?
I think we had them half a day every day.
You
It
had,
was
yeah,
long. I just remember how exhausted I was that first year. Just being with students. When you're with teenagers all day,
yeah. Did you have all of them at once? I can't remember how you guys did that. Did you go into thirds?
no, I think half, Pete had half of them and I had half of them.
Tom
And then, no,
had
or
them
a
for
third
a
of
while.
them. And then Tom had a third of them, I believe.
Yeah. But after that first year, how many did it was like one group went
Yeah.
a half day every day, right?
Right, there were
Right.
four groups. With Wednesday was the field trip day, if you recall.
Yeah.
And so each of the kids had one creek day basically, that we were in the creek for the half a day in the morning. They'd have lunch and then come back to the lab in the afternoon.
Right.
And when I started to ask the question, but I got sidetracked. Tell me, Russ, what you would say to the kids when some of these people, these students from New York City, didn't want to get in the water. What would you say to them? You remember?
No, I'm trying to reflect back. I'd always talk about challenging themselves.
Yeah. Well,
You
my
remember-
memory is that at one
It was
point
probably worse than that.
someone said, "I don't want to get in the water," and you looked at him and said, "Get in the water."
I don't remember that. Well, that may have been that may have taken place as the program as we went on, because it was rainy, it was cold that first summer, and there were days the kids were pretty darn right miserable.
Yeah.
But
So,
later on,
let's talk
Yeah.
about this. Let's talk a little bit about the science that was involved. What was the purpose of getting in the water? What were they after?
Collecting biological data, physical data, and chemical data, and analyzing the creek to see if it was healthy or not. If I'm not mistaken, we actually did. We went the first year. We went to 18 Mile Creek, Buffalo Creek, and Cayuga Creek, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we started adding all the other components to the program, we reduced the amount of time that they spent with me. And so I condensed it where we primarily focused on 18 Mile Creek. But we get all the data. They go out there. They do all the hands-on stuff. And all you do is guide them through the process.
What about lab work?
Lab work is when we come back in the afternoon, we tabulate all our data. We look at all the different parameters. For example, Bob knows this: mayflies, caddisflies, stoneflies, indicators of good water quality. We count the organisms. They'd have to learn to identify them, and they'd always have a little test at the end. And then with the chemical analysis, we'd compare the three creeks, compare the organisms, compare the flow rate, and they decide which creek was the healthier of the three creeks. Is initially how we did it.
And at some point, this goes back to the challenges that I gave Michelle. At some point, I had the bright idea of sticker boards,
Yes.
and
Which led to slacker stickers.
Yes.
which led to students coming down to my office crying, "I only got a half a sticker."
well, Michelle, I'm going to let you tell about the sticker boards because it's the same. It's sort of the same theme here. I got this bright idea of sticker boards, and I didn't go to Florida, but I simply turned to Michelle and said, "Make this happen." So, what was this? What were the sticker boards?
Well, the first year, your idea was for me to cut out little squares and paste them on the wall. I think you remember, I don't know if you remember that. And then I would put a sticker for each subject when a project or a assignment was completed successfully. So they could have English or Latin or whatever their subject was. They had tasks that had to be completed successfully according to the instructor. And so it was a big visual of all of their assignments. And one of the things that you did early on too is when we changed the program into all kinds of classes instead of just 3, that made I'm sorry, I got lost in my train of thought. So I made this big chart using butcher block paper. And I know this because every year they were 9 feet long. And the kids were divided into 4 groups then. We gave them colors. Do you remember that? We had
Yep.
yellow, red, green, blue, and they would, their group, they had a yellow notebook and a yellow everything. Their paper, things were all yellow for the yellow, and they were the yellow group. And the students, when they completed an assignment, the teacher would put the proper sticker in the proper spot, and it became
Let me interrupt for a second. Were these special stickers?
Oh, I was always overdid it. So yeah, Creek guys had bug stickers and snakes. The English had books and that sort of thing, and the art
Okay.
teacher had art stickers. Each square was about 2 inches square, and the charts were 9 feet long, and I would put the student's name and then 9 feet of stickers, and they would complete their stickers for the summer. And it was a competition because you would say there's a prize at the end of the program. Whoever gets the most completed percentage of stickers wins. Well, that public display meant everybody got all their stickers. And people would come down, so-and-so's not getting their stickers and blah, blah, blah. And that's where these Creek guys would give somebody a slacker sticker. And it wasn't just that they got a slacker sticker, it's that
You rip it in
it's
half.
on display. Everybody in the building is looking at it, and I'm not going to win the prize.
Yeah, it was a great motivator with peer pressure. And one of the things I remember about the sticker board is that it was a science building, so there were all kinds of science professors there, but our department was physics, geoscience, and interdisciplinary science. And we had some physicists who were pretty much really in the mindset of physicists and had nothing to do with the program. But each day they would stand at the board and say, "Well, I don't think the yellow group is going to make it this year." It got to be something for the whole building. And sometimes the students would be down asking you for the stickers as I was walking down the steps with their assignment that I had to look at.
They'd say, the English teacher didn't put up my sticker yet. I said, well, did you give her your paper? And she goes, yeah, I gave it this morning. It's just like she's got to go home, look at them, and then she'll put up the stickers. It was just like they want it now.
Yeah, and one of the things that we were very successful at as a team is not only the peer pressure motivation, but everybody got every sticker every year. And some of the instructors had to work pretty hard to do that. You mentioned Latin. Why'd we do Latin? Does anybody remember?
It was your great idea because we had so many non-native English speakers from Chinese, Cantonese, Mandarin, Spanish. There was just so many non-native English speakers
and Brooklyn and Bronx, right?
just a variety. We've had students from Russia. We've had them from all over. And you decided to do the Latin and Greek roots of scientific terms, which made the nice connection to all the scientific terms that the Creek guys were collecting.
And that's one of the reasons that I did that was because somewhere midstream, I don't remember which year, the Department of Education added a language component. And so we could have done Spanish if we
Right.
wanted, but it made sense to do Latin because of the connection that these guys were doing with their macroinvertebrates in the water.
Yeah, we could have done English too for some of them.
Well, yeah, that's true. We could have done English for some of them. One of the reasons.
Can I put a little something on that sticker board? Every year when the program was over, I would have these sheets. Well, two things. Do you remember you had the groups name themselves as a group? That was one of their first group assignments.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so
What
they
kind-
would
what
name
kind-
themselves, like the Red
what-
Dragons, or, they would come up with green eggs and ham in 5 different languages, green eggs and ham. So, they would all name themselves, and it was like a really good way to build as a team. They would name their group. And the other thing with the stickers, when the program was over, I would slice those 9 feet long sheets and by 2, and I would mail the stickers home to the students.
I remember that now. I remember that. We probably have people somewhere in Puerto Rico who still have their stickers. One of the things that my memory is that once we got past that first year, that this was, I looked forward to this every summer. It was fun.
Yeah, yeah.
And you guys did the heavy lifting in the summer, but it was fun for me. And one of the reasons it was fun was we did pranks. I'll use that term on the students. And I'm going to start off with the one I did that I was always very happy with. And in some ways, it really wasn't a prank, but we would bring the students in on Friday evening, and we would have at the dorm like a pizza party or something. Michelle, I don't exactly remember. We would have some kind of social event, and Michelle always knew all the students and where they came from because she had worked with parents and guidance counselors and so forth for months. But most of them were just names to me because I would review their applications and they were just names. But I did know the first names of all the students. And I would go around that evening and I would look at every student and talk with them, and I would connect their name with their first name. And that's all I did was first name, their name with something about them. And then on Saturday morning when we had our first session, where I did the thing about the good guy hat and the bad guy hat, and they had their folders with their names on. I would have them turn their folders around and everybody stand up. And then I would start and go around the room and I would name everybody. And every year I'd pick out a kid that I absolutely knew. I knew this kid's name. And I'd get to them and I'd go, oh man, I'll come back to you. And I'd go and do everybody else. And then I'd come back to that kid and I go, and then I'd say the name and everybody would go crazy. It was always a fun thing for me. But I learned after the first year I did that one of the things I did with the girls was hairstyle, how their hair looked. And I learned that between Friday night and Saturday morning, some of them completely changed their hairstyle, and so I had to use other things to remember that. But I'll just go on for one more quick little story. Part of my shtick that morning was I'd put on a really nice Buff State baseball hat, and I say, "This is my good guy hat." And when I have this, I'm the best friend. I brought you here, you know, we're going to feed you well. I don't remember what all I said. And then I had this beat up baseball hat, and I put it on. And I said, if I get this hat on, somebody's in trouble. That means somebody's going home, or somebody's going to be, stuck in the dorm. Or again, I don't remember the words I said. Well, this one summer, I couldn't find any other hat but the old baseball hat. And I put the old baseball hat on and walked across campus, and all students were running to Michelle. What happened? Who's in trouble? What happened?
Who's going home? Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so keeping that theme, Bob, can you remember? I know you can because we've talked about this. What you and Russ did when students were given the task of identifying macroinvertebrates in microscopes?
Yeah, yeah. One of the funny things that we used to do was when we collected the insects, the aquatic insects, we would set up a quiz for them the following week after we collected them, so they had a chance to study them and everything. And in order to get their sticker, they had to get X number of insects correct. And so before the kids would come in, we'd take a piece of cork and burn it, and we would take around the microscopes and just blacken around the eyes there. Okay, and everybody would start at a different microscope. Now we stress to the kids, there's no talking. You can't talk to someone else. This is a test. You're going to fail the test. You're not going to get your sticker if you don't identify a certain number of. So they'd look down in the microscope and they'd look up, and they couldn't see their own eyes, obviously, but they would see other people's eyes, and they're trying to communicate with other people. They're like this, and we would be, me and Ross, there is no talking. Guys, what are you doing? Like, what, as if we don't see the black all around their eyes, and they've all got these dark eyes like this, and we're just rolling, laughing. Finally, you could only do that. Russ and I couldn't even look at them half the time because we would just both bust out laughing and be, okay, guys, the joke is we put stuff on and here, wipe your eyes off. But it was just, that was every day. It wasn't just one thing.
It was every day.
I was telling Russ before we got on, I have a list of things that I put together that I was just, there's a whole sheet of paper and a second sheet if I need it.
Yeah. Like Tom was reminding me about the time you guys went out and pretended you were having a fist fight.
In the hallway, yeah.
Well, don't let people hold it. Before we go on to that, at least one of the years after you pulled that prank, you guys gave the students a prize. Do you remember?
My Golden Creek sneakers?
Most improved at the creek, wasn't it?
No. Michelle's got one of them. Can you see it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
There it is.
In case you can't see it very well, that's a picture of the two of them behind microscopes with black circles around their eyes.
Remember, they'd sit there like this.
That's funny.
It was their prize at the end of the year. You gave everybody an 8x10.
And then it morphed into keychains. We would give them a keychain of something, of a picture of us. We'd always take those pictures. That's right.
Forgot about those.
So Michelle, do you want to tell about the fist fights, or Russ? Do you want to tell about the fist
You
fights?
can tell the fist fights. They would just come down and tell me. I was like, Mom, the kids are up to trouble. That was the role we played. What are they doing now?
We'd always have we'd go out, we'd have a disagreement, but we'd fake it like we had this disagreement. Then we'd start arguing, right? But we wouldn't, we just tell the kids, wait here, we'd step in the hallway, and then it'd be all this ruckus, Then we'd just come back and say, guys, just stay in here, right? And we would do that over and over again. And their eyes would come in, they'd just look at us, we both come in real angry looking, and then they run down to Michelle.
Oh, yeah. But it wasn't, we weren't always on the same team, Russ. I don't know if you remember, but I still have my plug. It's in my drawer over here.
The boat?
My plug from my boat. We went out electroshocking fishing, and he'd put a student in. We had life jackets on and everything like this, and he always made sure to tell us that there was a can in the bottom of it in case you took on water, right, for safety. And he was always thinking of safety, right? And the water is filling, our feet are starting to get wet. And I'm like, oh boy, get the can. We got to start, we're getting there, getting the water out of the bottom of the boat. As we're in the Niagara River, and the other boat is electroshocking, and I was the secondary boat, okay? And so sure enough, I look over and Russ is holding the plug to the boat, and I'm just like going, I look in the bottom of the boat, there's no place. I put my finger in the bottom of the boat here.
It was a Boston whaler. They're unsinkable.
We took
It was-
on a bit of water though.
Yeah, it was really relentless. And I remember one year, Bob didn't even know it was going to happen, and Russ had decided that, who were you, Dr. F?
Dr.
Oh, he came up with that name.
Okay.
But
On
I
a
was
separate
Bob.
note, the other thing that he did to me, I would come in and he'd have these ideas. Hey, let's do this, or he would like, it's like an SNL skit, trying to
Yeah.
sit there and say, hey, we'll do this thing called Dr. Whatever. You just reminded me of a time for the banquet when everybody would get all dressed up. I don't know if you remember this, Russ.
Yeah,
And I
I
go, what
remember.
are you wearing? He goes, oh, I'm wearing shorts with a tie. Shorts? Tie? Yeah, okay. I have a picture. One of the pictures is me with shorts, and I was fuming. I was really upset because I showed up in shorts with a tie on, and you had dress pants on, and then all of a sudden you get all the kids going, and you're like, look at this guy. He can't even dress up for the banquets, and the kids are dressed to the nines.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm sitting here in shorts, and I'm like,
But if you remember, we did that for a couple of years. Like the first time we came in, we did have shorts.
okay.
Then you asked me like, oh yeah, he goes, so what are you gonna wear? And I said, I'm gonna wear shorts. And then
You would always tell the kids, like the Monday kids, don't tell the other guys because we're going to play this trick on them, It was always, you're always going to play one trick or another. It was when the doctor, that first day, one of the students came down and said to me, like, I know doctor, that doctor is your brother-in-law, but I don't think he should be
Nepotism.
working here.
And I would come in with a suit coat on, and remember I pull my socks off, and I borrow one of the students' pens or something. I'm sitting there
Picked your
picking my
toes.
with their pen. This was the first time we'd meet the kids, and it
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
like, oh my gosh.
It was always like, it was my philosophy that learning should be fun.
Yeah.
And we've all had those college instructors where you go in and you just dread going every day because they are the worst of the worst. You know what to expect. And so these kids figure they're gifted and talented. They're very naive. They come in for the first day. I can imagine they're conjuring up all these things that could possibly go wrong. And so the first day, I'd be on the phone with Bob the night before. Listen, we're going to do this tomorrow. So one time, we come in, and I don't know if you remember this. I brought that fox pea. Remember
The
that,
what?
Bob? The fox pea.
Oh yeah, the foxtrot, and that was awful.
So what we do is you come in, and I'd always I'd be there, be real serious with them, and then tell them what we're going to do, what we're going to be doing for that day, and then Bob would always come in afterward, and he was the rule breaker. He was always the guy. I set it up that way. He'd come in holding a Coke. He'd come in, in flip flops. That's the rules you couldn't break. So I wanted him to come in as this horrible teacher. I mean, not taking care of himself, raggedy clothes. I'd be rolling a T-shirt in the mud the night before. He would take shorts. He'd be cutting holes.
Remember, I would cut my shirt off underneath the suit coat, and I would have like a muscle, a muscle shirt here that was all cut up like this underneath the suit coat, and you take the suit coat off, and the kids just couldn't stop but laughing.
They weren't always laughing at first. So Bob's walking around, and I'm teaching, and he's like in the back, and he's spraying this Boxer all over himself, right? The kids, he's walking by the kids, and the kids are like, oh. And I'd be real serious, right? And he goes, come on, do you need help with this? No. Oh, it was hard. It was that first, I could never do it, because you keep a straight face. I would die. It was something. Or he
But it
came in
wasn't
one
just
time, he
even
told
the
him,
planned things. You guys would come home and you'd show me pictures. Oh, look at this snake we found. And here's Bob holding the end of a snake about 5 feet long. I said, what kind of snake it is? I don't know. Well, don't pick up a snake. You got all these kids, Bringing home fish. Do you remember you brought back big fish and they died?
Oh,
The whole science building smell.
That's number one on my list.
he
Russ,
says,
I knew you
he
were gonna
always
bring this.
says, we would always be at odds. But whatever I would say, Bob, I didn't want to do, Bob would do. right? And he goes, take the fish back. I go, it's not going to survive, Bob.
It's
He
a
goes, what do you
Friday
mean? I'll put it in
afternoon.
the aquarium. I
and
go, it's not.
we caught fish. We had these big nets, and I wanted to bring one of the fish. I go, what a great idea! You know, we're doing an aquatics course here. Why not have a fish in the classroom, right? As a class pet, a fish. So it's Friday, middle of July, right? It's a warm week of 90-degree weather. There's no air conditioning in our lab, and
No.
Russ goes,
The whole
Bob, this is a
building.
bad idea. This is a bad idea. I don't know if you remember this, but I set up the whole tank, put the fish in there Friday afternoon.
I
And I
remember.
swear, an hour after we left, we closed the door. That thing must have turned belly up. Monday morning, do you remember
The
there
whole building,
whole
they had
building.
the building has people over there. Something died in the
hazmat
building.
people walking around, and him and I are walking in the front door, and they're putting up this caution tape on the front door. And Russ looks at me. He goes, "Your fish," and I go, "Oh, I forgot about it."
As soon as I came in the building, I go, oh, they've been up to something. I didn't know about the fish. I didn't know about the fish, but I knew it was you.
No, it was, and people were like, "What's going on? What's happening?" They said there's something in the building, and I'm just like, "Well, good luck with that." We jogged up the stairs.
Too big to flush, right?
Yeah. Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Remember you
yeah.
walked in, I knew right away it was your fish.
I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was you.
So, how many kids did you lose at the creek?
Oh, we'd always tell
Never
them.
lost a one.
Good.
That's not what we would tell them. We are always, remember, you'd always tell them you lost only like one.
Oh yeah. We'd always tell them that we'd want to go on the trip to Niagara Falls. Tell them about the kids that fell off the boat. We never found them.
You had them all hanging onto a rope one year so that they didn't get lost at the creek.
As you get close, I've never had them hold on.
Do you remember when we had the kids carrying the desks and the chairs down the hallway?
And a computer printer. Yeah, they all carried them out to the creek.
What were we having the kids do with them? They were just
What it was, it was like, I think again was the first day. The idea is we wanted the kids to be able to ask us why. Remember, they would just do as we say. So our room was a spillover room. So we had all these old Apple computers. So then when they were going up the creek, Bob handed them a monitor, and I handed them I don't know, whatever else was there. And they would take it all on, and the desk. I do remember taking the desk out there. And then we get out there and like,
Some lab benches.
what do you think we're going to do with these?
But the lesson behind it was to question what you're doing,
Yes.
right? Don't just walk aimlessly and be told what to do, but question, what are we going to do with this,
Well, in that same vein, one of the things that I always tell people, like, regardless, I mean, you guys really put them through hell. I mean, but it was,
They loved it.
they loved it. They
loved it.
loved it. They had a blast. I would tell them in the beginning, you guys are going to play freeze tag and have a good time. And they're all worried about being, they're 16 and they're looking around for a cute boy and stuff. Your husband's not here, your wife's not here, and we're going to play freeze tag and volleyball. But one of the things I always say is these kids were so into it that
Yeah.
you could tell them anything. There was a time like the second or third week, fourth week, it was pretty much into it. And we used to go up to the Adirondacks for the last week. Me, 2 big charter buses, 56 kids, and I don't know how many teachers, and my 2 children. And they're all, one time, they're like the Monday group after your class before lunch, they all come down and they want those big rubber bands like you get from the mailroom. They want 2 big rubber bands. We got to have 2 big rubber bands. Okay, I'm giving them 2 big rubber bands. The next day, they come down again, 2 big rubber bands. And I assumed it was to put around their notebooks to keep the water out or something. I'm going, okay, you've been here a couple, 3, 4 weeks already, whatever. And finally I said, what are they for? And the one kid goes to me, the mouse cuffs. And I said, mouse cuffs? And they said, yeah, for kids.
There, mouse gone.
And these kids, he explained to me that these are to put around our pant legs so that when we're at camp, mice can't run up our pant legs. And that always stuck with me, that these kids were ready to go. We're going to put on our mouse cuffs and we can't wait. And I'm thinking, if nobody called their mom, nobody said anything,
No.
we're game, we're going. It's really a testament to how much fun they had. They would go to a place that they got to put rubber bands on their pants legs.
Yeah.
It was always
It,
something.
it, it was always interesting to me that you'd have a little bumpy first 2 weeks. And in fact, almost every year, someone would come and wanted to go home right away. And we would say, just stick it out for 5 days
1
or
week, yeah.
whatever. And by the time it was over, we probably could have had them stay forever.
Oh, they didn't want to go.
Yeah, no, it was rough.
And I think that's a testament to, we would push these kids too. I know we joked with them quite a bit, but the other thing that was so memorable to me is, Russ, I don't know if you remember, like they'd be crying doing a task, right? Whether it was climbing at Chestnut Ridge Park, and we were climbing up the waterfalls there, and they were in tears, and they pushed through it, right? Because we made sure they were always safe, and that they could do this, and we challenged them to do something they had never done, and they remembered those things, and it was, they thank you for pushing them like that. But that was
Better for it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, one of the things that I had them do when we went to camp was build a fire without matches, and I gave them the flint and the metal, and they were very serious about that challenge, even though it had nothing to do with the math and the science of it, but it was just one of the challenges that they had to overcome. And I want to do one more prank, and then I'm going to take a break, and we're going to essentially start another episode. Because if you can believe it, we're already at 38. No, actually, we're at 40 minutes because I didn't turn it on right away. We're at 40-some minutes, and I don't think we've scratched the surface. But
No.
before I close out this episode, I want Bob and Russ to tell about the wild animal that was at the college camp that one year.
Do you remember? I remember.
So Russ, right? We'd have all the kids get up there, and you and I would show up late that first night.
Oh, yeah.
And Russ would have his game caller. We had this huge megaphone, and it was a bleeding deer, and all kinds of just different calls in the woods, and we were calling everywhere, and the kids are looking out we got the binoculars, and we were in camouflage. We are getting bit up by mosquitoes.
Pitch black.
It was just crazy. We're out in the woods in the middle of, and this game caller, these animals are
I need to
calling.
interrupt. They would never tell me what they were doing, by the way. They never told me.
We couldn't because you would tell them. You feel so bad that we were going to pull this prank on them, so we were afraid you were going to tell them.
And so we could see
Told
the
me
kids.
them.
They couldn't see us in the woods, but you could see the kids looking out the windows, and they're looking for these animals, and they are some god awful calls.
Do you remember, Bob? It was right in the middle of Wa time.
Wah. Oh, yeah, we would always go Wah. Yeah, we were always the bad guy. Was that Sean that did Wah?
No,
No,
Tom.
that was
Oh,
Dr.
that's
Kinsey.
okay. Yeah, and it happened right in the middle of Wah time. Yeah, and yeah. So then we would walk up, and we were like, "Guys, we heard this," and they were like, "Yeah, we heard it too. We heard it too." And then a week later or so, or a few days later, the banquet rolls around, and Russ had a tail from something you put out of a carrying cage, right? Something.
Yep.
You brought in the cat carrier, I think, and I had a raccoon pelt that I wrapped up in rubber bands. You remember? Well, when we were doing that, I remember we were going through the field with Bob, and it's pitch black, no flashlights, no nothing. We're going to navigate ourselves through the woods without any visual aids. We're walking across this field, and all of a sudden I hear, ugh, right? And then next thing I know, we go into this ditch. Right? We didn't even know the ditch was there. As we're going over, we're sneaking in on him. We know there, and all of a sudden I see Bob. He turns around, he said, I'm like, what's that? He goes, there's a kid right there. So we just back out. Then we made our way around to the cabin. Jesus knew what we were going to do. He was prepared for it. So all the kids are inside looking out, and they were on the outside. We're scratching on the building, on the windows. Oh, they're panicking. And Sean was telling us that when we were doing that, we had left. If you remember, we had left, and we had come back later that night. And they believed 100% it was us until we showed up an hour later. Or, like, what are you talking about? Who was out there? What there's some, can't be. Remember, they didn't believe it. That They were looking at us, looking to the woods, looking at us, looking to the woods. Remember Sean was saying that?
Yeah, yeah.
Then we took Jesus. Remember, he came out. He sacrificed some of his hair on the end of a stick.
Oh my gosh, I remember that now. Yeah.
Put ketchup all over it. And Jesus said, he goes, "It attacked me."
Always something. Jesus, we should say, was Creek Boy.
Yes,
Boy.
yes.
So then at the banquet, Russ showed up with a carrier with the same call inside there with a blanket over top of the carrier, so you could just see just the tail sticking out the back. And we told the kids, like, guys, we caught it the day after you guys left. We stuck around and we finally caught it. And so, you know,
Didn't he
Russ
have the
and Reese
speaker
did-
playing?
Yeah.
You'd have the speaker playing inside there, and the kids are like, "That's it. That's the same sound. That's it." We're like, "Yeah, we caught it." And you'd open up the cage, and we'd just be like, "Ah, I gotcha," you know.
We had them all get real quiet. Quiet down. We reached in, and you threw it into the crowd. And they rolled on the floor. You, I knew it was you. I knew it.
I remember, again, I was always amazed at how the kids dressed up for this banquet. I don't know where they got
Prom.
No.
I mean, they were like prom things. And we were in Ilio DePaulo's, and you guys were in the front, and you opened that and threw it up, and kids went everywhere. Well, I'm gonna call a break here. I'm not
All right.
sure how this is gonna turn out in the recording because we've been laughing so much. I'm not sure what people will be able to hear. But I always close my, or try to close. I missed one. Try to close my podcast with a quotation, and the quotation that I found for this episode comes from Carl Brunner, a person I don't know anything about, but I loved his words. He said, "They may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel." And that really says a lot about the Math Science Upward Bound program at Buffalo State College in the 90s and the early 2000s. And three of you were instrumental in making that statement come true.